All right. All right. Hello. This is week 6 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Prisoners of War. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Blackcoat. And today, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Today we will have, I believe, Chief Alligator start with the 12 steps.
Okay.
All right. Is it clear or should I blow it up a little more?
Got it.
All right.
American Prisoners of War, 13-week practical program of action for each American prisoner of war. 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. 2, who established that estate. 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your positions on reparations. 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American businesses. 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. Have them learn about an American inventor. Have them know about our heroes. They should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to European invasion militarily and culturally. 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming, America, and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you, Chief Alligator. Next, we'll go ahead and I'll start with the inventor for this week. Share my screen. All right, so this week's inventor, we have Mr. Hugh M. Brown. Date of birth is June 12th, 1851. Mr. Brown passed October 30th in 1923. He is coined for the invention of the sewer or other trap device. And basically what this device did was make sure that any sewage did not flow back up into the home. So pretty much, I guess if you can think of along like those sewage lines that run out to the middle of the streets, if you have that, or if you have like a septic tank, just causing that fluid to not go back up into the house to pretty much keep it in that reservoir. And then if you're, if it's connected to regular sewage lines to flow into the streets there. The patent number is 426429. And that patent date was approved April 29th, 1890. And if you can see here, this is pretty much the device here. Sewer or other trap. And pretty detailed here. So again, I just wanted to kind of highlight this one. Just again, showing the, I guess, ingenuity that our people are born with pretty much, not savages. If we were savages, then just be living in filth. He came up with something that said, you know what, let's make sure this doesn't, flow back into anything while we're taking showers, things of that nature. Let's make sure, we're keeping our waste and our, home and everything else separate from each other. So I definitely just wanted to highlight this. And again, this is Hugh M. Brown. Right. And next we will have Chief Alligator with the quote for this week. And I believe he said it was going to be quote 13.
Correct.
Share my screen. Yeah, hey, all right.
All right, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the founder of what we know now as Black History Month, the 13th quote I chose the 13th quote. The race has great possibilities. Properly awakened, the Negro can do the so-called impossible in the business world and thus help to govern rather than merely be governed. And I chose that one just off the strength of properly awakened. That's why we do this every Sunday, man, trying to just get proper knowledge so that we can move forward as a group of people.
Great quote for this week. Now I'll leave this up for Chief Blackcoat, who's going to read the legal definitions as well as the maroon historical points.
All right, we're starting with the definitions here. Number 1, American, indigenous to America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of the ancestor, either linearly or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. 4, prisoner of war, POW, prisoner, person, usually a soldier who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a peculiar discipline or a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And now we have the historical points here. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, Maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Number 5, Maroons knew the European enemies, language, defense, and plans.
All right, thank you, Chief Blackcoat. And last but not least, jump into the Constitution before we jump back into our readings in the 1866 Indian Treaty. First and foremost, I'd like to start off in Article 1, Section 10. And again, just continue to beat this drum and hammer this point in Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, as we always say, especially when we start off our videos, we're reading the 12 steps. Number 10 coincides with Section 10 here, and that there is no money. Gold and silver was taken out of this system as far as the United States system in 1971. And according to this government's constitution, which is the foundation of everything, gold and silver coin is the only thing that is actual tender in payment of debts. So as we pay on different things within the system, paying on mortgages, paying on car notes, all of these things, we're not actually paying that debt off because we're not actually using the tender or the money to actually pay off these debts. So that's how you can continue to be taxed and continue to have to pay these additional fees when you so-called have paid off your mortgage or any type of what is that? Not asset, but any type of property, basically. So definitely just want to highlight that. Next, we will go to Article 6. And in Article 6 here, we see that the Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. This really sticks out to me, especially today after what we read last week in regards to the 1866 Indian Treaty. What we saw pretty much, I want to say in Article 20 or 21, we saw that the actual church, or better yet, the Pope had the supreme law over the land, because I believe it said that they could not interfere with any of the missionaries' duties, regardless of what was actually in this treaty, which is also a contract. So we saw there that the church actually superseded a treaty, which according to this Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So again, just two contradictions that we can kind of point out and mirror or, parallel it or attach it to what we've been reading thus far. So just again, showing that this whole Constitution and these laws made underneath this Constitution are pretty much voided because they don't even stand on its foundation. And last but not least, definitely want to show the Constitution and what it says its powers of the president has. So we'll do section 2 of Article 2. And here the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. So again, as we always do, highlighting, of course, January 6th, but also during the height of the pandemic of 2020, that summer, you will see all of these different, all of these different organizations and groups, a lot of them, unidentifiable. Those were the militia, a lot of them were the militia. If you can recall, definitely remember a point in which the former President Trump has stated, if you don't get, things together, I believe it was Washington. I don't believe it was Portland. I believe it was Washington. You don't think get things together that he will. And what he meant by that was that he would send the militia. And that's when you would hear those reports of, these unarmed men and these unarmed vehicles tying people up with these string ties or things of that nature. So just kind of highlighting that, that was a power and that is an actual power of the president. Because again, as it states here, the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army, Navy, and of the militia. So again, just three things definitely like to highlight every week, just to make sure that we're drilling this into the viewers' heads to, help us enter, and understand what we're dealing with in the system.
Right. Because the feedback will help us as well too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Correct. So I'll go ahead and share my screen for these articles. And I believe we left off on Article 22. Did anybody want to pick up from there? If not, I'll go ahead and do it. I'll jump off. The Article 22, the right of selection hereby given shall not authorize the selection of any land required by the United States as a military post or Indian agency, not exceeding 1 mile square, which when abandoned shall revert to the nation in which the land lies. So here I'm just getting that selection by getting. So that any of these lands, or it looks like in particular talking about any 1 mile square of land cannot be or will not be required for the military or the Indian agency. But if I'm guessing this is in a long alignment with the missionaries, that if abandoned, then it will revert back to that nation in which that land was carved out in. So either it be the Choctaw or the Chickasaw. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I believe this one just kind of piggybacks off of Article 22. Because they was talking about making sure that they had certain schools and certain plots of land carved out for schools. So here, basically saying that those selections that have been marked out for these schools and this these brainwashing camps, basically, that if they were to be abandoned, then that land will revert back to whichever nation that had these schools allotted land within. Article 23, the register of the land office shall inscribe in a suitable book or books in alphabetical order the name of every individual for whom a selection shall be made, his or her age, and a description of the land selected. So this is interesting. Definitely can see the accounting, making sure that they account for who they're giving this land to. And again, just kind of, the thing that we usually get done every year when they're just making sure that they're notating for everybody, making sure that they're accounting for everybody. This is just another form of that, making sure they know exactly who they're giving land to what land they're given to and how much of that land. I'm seeing they have the age of that person and a description of the land selected. So basically kind of just making like landmarks of what that land looked like as well. Because of course, as we saw earlier in the articles, they have to make improvements on these lands. If they don't make improvements over X amount of time, then of course they can be discharged or removed from this land. So they're also making sure, I guess, to notate how that land looked prior to these individuals being allotted this land.
I like that they pointed out alphabetical order. Just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah.
Alphabetical order, making sure the language we speak.
Great point. Great point. Any thoughts on that, Chief Alligator? Good.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Article 24. Whereas it may be difficult to give to each occupant of an improvement a quarter section of land or even a smaller subdivision, which shall include such improvement, in consequence of such improvements lying in towns, villages, or hamlets, the legislative authorities of the respective nations shall have power where in their discretion they think it expedient to lay off into towns, lots, any section or part of a section so occupied. So it looks like they're trying to give or saying that the nations have the power to pretty much expedite in regards to giving people or these occupants their quarter sections in regards to just being able to speed up that process as they see fit. Let me see here. To lay off into town lots, any section or part of a section so occupied they think it expedient to lay
like
off
town building right now.
Yeah.
To just, to implement a small town building, having them just in that first sentence, whereas if it may be difficult to give each occupant of an improvement of a quarter section of land or even a smaller subdivision which shall include such improvement and consequence in such improvement lying in towns, villages, and hamlets. So we're just seeing the structure of the community building now, the branch out from what I'm taking from just that first half of that paragraph. So that's what's sticking out to me, right? And I ain't mean to cut you off till you go as well. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I think you're right, though, just highlighting how they're, and I guess this kind of goes back to something Chief Alligator said. We didn't have like these type of borders and these hard lines. So there's definitely something that you can see within this beginning of this article, like these, rigid and defined lines that they're going to be putting these people in. We're used to just being able to occupy a certain territory, and after that, whoever, is within that territory, can do what they want to as long as they're within it. But it seems like, hey, you have this quarter section. Outside of that, you have nothing. So you can see how that would probably be another conflict, as that's something that our people aren't used to. That's a great point right there.
Well, you can also see that how they're going to lose land, because where it says in consequence of such improvements lying in towns, villages, or hamlets, the legislative authority or the respective nations shall have power. So if you mess around and do improvements in the jurisdiction of a town, village, or hamlet, you're not going to be able to use whatever you just improved. That goes over to the legislative authorities. And then it's in their discretion. They think it expedient to lay off into town lots any section or part of a section so occupied. They think it expedient. So basically, once you violate and go into their borders with improvements, it's up to them how quick they want to take it from you and say, hey, you built in the wrong area.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like Chief Biko said, making these hard line rules, just putting this on paper. First, we would, you knew not to go over in them parts if you ain't had no business being over here. But now it's on paper. Make believe in their world now. We didn't know that. Well, right here it says.
Exactly. No, you're right. Because we already saw how a lot of our ancestors would, inscribe their name or mark their name with X's. So going from that to try to understand exactly what these articles entail, two different things. It's like, yeah, we don't know none of this stuff y'all talking about. We just moved over here because y'all had them guns pointed at us. So yeah, you could definitely see how, they pretty much wrote their demise into these articles. Let's see what I leave off. To lay off into town lots, any section or part of a section so occupied, to which lots the actual occupants, being citizens of the respective nations, shall have preemptive right, and upon paying into the treasury of the particular nation the price of the land as fixed by the respective legislatures. So here, it's seeing that you have to be classified as a citizen under these nations. Again, that's something that's a European term here, as far as the citizen. And then kind of what we was talking about last week, that nation, that's that corporate fiction. So again, we can see the whole straw man account being applied to these the Choctaw and Chickasaw tribes. Then it's also showing how they have to now be paying into a treasury to that particular nation. Something again that we see from the European government, the United States here. And then again, that's pretty much having that that power be given to the legislatures as far as, I guess, that fixed amount for that particular land. Any thoughts on that? Anybody pick up something different or in addition?
Pretty much giving the rights to, as it says, the legislators or the exclusive of the value of the said improvement. So, they're going appraising land of the improvements by the citizens, and then pretty much cash paying out, saying, well, this is what it's worth to buy it from them. So I'm looking at, to get the treasury, price of the land is fixed by the respective legislators. So yeah, on the improvements, whatever it's worth, we want your land.
Right, that's a way of them. I mean, basically, it's up to the legislative body that whatever improvements you did, that they're going to recognize it for the value that you see in it. So that's another way to get you off the land. What if you did massive improvements and they say, well, we only think it increased it by $1,000?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Low ball pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Shall receive a convenience thereof. Such occupant shall not be prejudiced thereby in his right to his selection elsewhere. The town lots which may be unoccupied shall be disposed of for the benefit of the particular nation, as the legislative authorities may direct from time to time, when the number of occupants of the same quarter section shall not be such as to authorize the legislative authorities to lay out the same or any part thereof in two town lots. They may make such regulations for the disposition thereof as they may deem proper. By subdivisions of the same or as to accommodate the actual occupants. So again, here just continues to look like they're just putting it all on the legislative body of those said nations in regards to just divvying out these quarter sections and how they want to pretty much occupy these sections. That's what I'm getting here thus far. Let me see. They may make regulations for the disposition thereof as they may deem proper, either by subdivisions of the same, so as to accommodate the actual occupants, or by giving the right of the prior choice to the first occupant in point of time upon paying the others for their improvements. Okay. This is different.
All I'm thinking is, where are you going? Like, you're paying out, or you're, we already know they lowballing them, or however it's going down. But where are you going after you give up your land, or you give up your property, or you give up your whatever you improved on? Where are we going?
Is there another quarter section, that you can then purchase or that you would be moved to? That's a good point. Good point. Any thoughts on that, Chief Alligator?
No, that's pretty straightforward right there. What they're saying, everything's still up under the legislative authority. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward.
All right. See here, to be valued in such way as the legislative authority shall prescribe or otherwise, all occupants retaining their lots under this section and desiring in addition to make a selection must pay for the lots so retained, as in the case of town lots, and any Choctaw or Chickasaw who may desire to select a sectional division other than that on which his homestead is without abandoning the latter shall have the right to purchase the homestead sectional division at such price as the respective legislature may prescribe. So I think that kind of answers the question you had posed there, Chief Blackcoat, in regards to, okay, if they sell, can they get another one? Looks like they're able to purchase some homestead without abandoning the latter as well. So it seems like they can purchase more property or land in this case. And that price again will be set by the legislature. So
It just also sounds like real estate is being set up.
Definitely.
You know, the exchange of property. So this is like, again, new things come to us. We're seeing this 1866 Indian Treaty laid out, and now the people have to adapt to it moving forward. Those are just little things I'm thinking about.
No, definitely. Kind of just I like something I read today when you just said real estate, that real is just basically like royal estate. And that kind of goes back to like who's actually pulling the strings. Like you said, the church, the Pope, they're funding these this invasion of our land and the conquering of it. So like you said, that real estate they're just pretty much converting the people of the land into that workforce. You're never going to own the land, but you're going to continue to pay for it until pretty much you die, until you die there. So definitely interesting in regards to, like you said, definitely you see how this relates to today in regards to real estate. Anyone want to pick up on Article 25?
Yeah, I'll do it. Just one comment on that last thing that you just read. They were referring to those town lots where they say must pay for the lots so retained, as in the case of town lots. So they were, remember, they were given land initially. They were given quarter sections. If they build or improve within that town lot, now that legislative body comes over them. So they're also saying, if you want to purchase lots that's sectioned off within the town, now you got to pay for that. And you're going to pay based on what they deem shall have the right to purchase the homestead sectional division at such price as the respective legislators may prescribe. So they're kind of basically saying, we're going to tax you if you want to purchase land that's in the quote unquote town, that's roped off in the town area. Article 25, during 90 days from the expiration of the 90 days, notice aforesaid, the Choctaws and Chickasaw shall have the exclusive right to make selections as aforesaid, and at the end of that time, the several parties shall be entitled to patents for their respective selections. So 180 days would have to go by. 90 days after the expiration of 90 days, then another 90 days. That's when you can do your notice and you can make your selections. And then at the end, they'll give you, you should be entitled to patents for your respective selections, which will give you the right to basically claim whatever it is that you're selecting. It looks like that's about a 180-day process. Anybody else want to build on that?
Seeing that patents is reminding me or put me in the mindset of like land patents, since that's what we're, I guess, talking about in regards to these last couple articles. Would that be what they're referring to? Shall be entitled to patents for their respective selections, like the actual land patents?
Sounds like the improvements. Whatever they came
Okay.
up with as far as an improvement, entitled to it.
Gotcha.
Well, the next sentence will answer that. to be issued by the President of the United States and countersigned by the Chief Executive Officer of the nation in which the land lies, and recorded in the records of the executive office of the particular nation, and copies of the said patents under seal shall be evidence in any court or of law or equity. So it's going to be issued by the President of the United States. So here we can see again, the Americans, these particular tribes, Choctaw and Chickasaw, they have another nation superseding whatever they do, which is the United States government. So they're not going to own the land. They're getting a patent from another government, which is the United States government. That's why it says issued by the President of the United States. So he's going to issue the land patent and then countersigned by the Chief Executive Officer of the nation. So the nation, the representative from Choctaw, Chickasaw, he just signing off on what the president said. Yeah, I'll give you a patent on that. And then it's going to be recorded in the records of the executive office of the particular nation. And then copies of the said patents under seal should be evidence in any court. So yeah, basically, the United States government can take back whatever land patent that they gave you. So we can see here, coming all the way up to 2022, it's a mindset that we don't own and control anything. We can see how the United States government is basically making these two tribes, converting them into nations, making them to report everything they do, also infiltrating them, putting marshals in there, putting clerks in there, putting secretaries in there so they can have copies of all the minutes and know exactly all the business that's going on. I just see lack of independence here, lack of self-sufficiency, completely dependent on a foreign government. Anybody else want to build on that?
Definitely in alignment with that. Definitely in alignment.
I agree. Total dependent, and they're just moving bodies, moving pieces, and then no instructions on how to get these pieces and how to own these pieces. And it's just we're watching the layout of this group being pretty much becoming citizens under this government.
I'll do Article 26 as well. The right here given to the Choctaws and Chickasaws respectively shall extend to all persons who have become citizens by adoption or intermarriage of either of said nations, or who may hereafter become such. So now we can see in the beginning of the treaty when they said that you're going to have the Choctaw, Chickasaw Americans, you got African slaves, Negroes, and then you got those peasant Europeans that were rebelling in the South against their government in the Civil Rebellion. Now you can see what they're doing, how they're going to, again, steal land from the Americans. The right here given to Choctaws and Chickasaws. You can't give somebody a right. You like nobody can tell you, okay, I'll give you this. You have to be a prisoner of some sort to be given a right.
Right.
Right. And then it says shall extend to all persons who have become citizens. Let's just say that's the Americans, African slaves, Negroes, and European peasants by adoption or intermarriage of either of said nations. So now there's a benefit for you to marry a Choctaw or Chickasaw. Or get adopted by one, which goes back to what we were talking about last week, how it all goes through the probate court, right? Yeah. Now it's to your advantage to, what if you kill off the mom and pop and then the kids are left remaining, right? And you're European descent. It makes sense that you would want to become the guardian of that Choctaw or Chickasaw child, because Article 26 is saying now you can end up having rights as a citizen under those two nations. Y'all want to build on that?
You said a mouth.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You said a mouthful when the right here given to Choctaw and Chickasaws. you know, I like how you said it, because we have to, while we're reading this, we have to understand someone else is writing this down, looking at a group of people. So now we're saying we're giving you the right. So how did you give me something if I'm already, I'm cordoned off, I'm roped off, something? Because why do you have to give me the right? And then, you know, the whole marriage and adoption. Yeah, go ahead and integrate these other foreigners or immigrants. So that, you know, that's what I'm taking from Article 26 right now.
No, definitely highlights what we were reading last week, especially in regards to that probate. Definitely highlights how, yeah, people can just, you know, can be you could be in the wrong quarter section if you're an American. You could be, you know, circled around, or, you know, be enclosed by a bunch of peasants. And they knock you off, say, hey, we're going to adopt your child. And now they inherit that quarter section. And they keep doing that, so forth and so on. And yeah, just it shows just a lot of ways that the land was being taken over from us. Not only, again, just can't give us the right if we're already of this land. You can't give me a right in regards to that. But now, since they're under this system, they can. Plus, they can have, you know, their rights taken from not only adoption, but intermarriage, as well as other ways. So yeah, just definitely rhymes with today too. Definitely rhymes with today.
And keep in mind, this is the management class where they're being infiltrated with clerks, marshals, deputies, executive officers, secretary, treasurer. So this is your management class looking at the tribes people. These tribes people probably didn't know this, and they didn't speak English in 1866. So they didn't know that intermarrying outside of their bloodline was going to make them lose their quarter sections. And so that's another thing we got to remember. They probably those tribes weren't speaking English. They were speaking whatever the native tongue was in 1866. So who's going to interpret this for them? The legislative authorities, if they were interpreted for them at all. So it's almost like you got the dirty little secret, and then you're just watching the people. And to be honest with you, what if you sent maybe 20 bad European women in a particular area of some land you wanted, for the purpose of one of those Choctaw men choosing one of those women, knowing that they would possibly reproduce with them, and then that's a way for the legislative authority to get that land from that family. You know, it could work on that level. So that's how I'm looking at this, is we weren't speaking English at that time, right? My grandparents, which would be the 1950s, that's the first generation. And well, yeah, my granddad dropped out in the 3rd grade. So really, no, my parents were that first generation that went through 12 years of schooling and graduated. So we haven't been fluent with English that long as a group of people. If you go back in your bloodline, your grandparents probably couldn't read. If your grandparents would, your great aunts and great uncles, everybody couldn't read English in the mid and early 1900s. We got to remember that.
Yeah. You just kind of highlighted something too in regards to like their legislature, as far as the Choctaws and Chickasaws are concerned. It kind of reminds me of the Black Caucus. Like, they are the ones that's supposed to be able to interpret this stuff, but they're like, well, hey, we have a government position, we have a job that's going to pay us out, you know, annually, whatever that amount was. But I know it's a bad deal for my people, but again, I have a secure job. So as long as me and mine are straight, then hell, I don't care. And it kind of just, again, rhymes with today, especially in regards to the Congressional Black Caucus. All the bad deals that have been done against the people that they're supposed to represent. So definitely I can see this parallel with that.
I'll do 27.
All right.
In the event of disputes arising in regard to the rights of parties to select particular quarter sections or other divisions of said land, or in regard to the adjustment of boundaries so as to make them conform to legal divisions and subdivisions, such disputes shall be settled by the Register of the Land Office and the chief executive officer of the nation in which the land lies in a summary way after hearing the parties. So yeah, any disputes on the land is going to go through the land office and the chief executive officer of that nation. That's what I'm taking from that. If said register and chief officer cannot agree, the two to call in a third party who shall constitute a third referee, the decision of any two of whom shall be final without appeal. So they'll bring in a third party, and that third party can either side with the chief officer or the land office register. And once they make their decision, you can't appeal it. I'll do one more. Article 28. Nothing contained in any law of either of the said nations shall prevent parties entitled to make selections contiguous to each other, and the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations hereby agree to repeal all laws inconsistent with this provision. So each nation can buy its can get each other's land, and there's nothing that can stop that from happening. So
Yes.
that can cause a little infighting, but that's basically what that article is saying.
Mhm.
I'll do one more if you want, just to knock it out.
You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do this last one. Selections made under this treaty shall, to the extent of 1/4 section, including the homestead or dwelling, be inalienable for the period of 21 years from the date of such selection. So you got absolute right to it, inalienable. So you got absolute right to your homestead or dwelling for 21 years. And upon the death of the party in possession shall descend according to the laws of the nation where the land lies. And in the event of his or her death without heirs, the said quarter section shall escheat and become the property of the nation. So you can see how they're just taking their own, that's a catch-22. If you don't have any heirs, it can go back to the legislative authority, or it depends on where the land lies, where it says, and upon death of the party in possession shall descend according to the laws of the nation where the land lies, where it already said if it lays in towns and different types of it was another name they use with towns as well. But what if your land overlaps into a town? It goes back to the legislative authority.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a lot of catches for that nation to get what they gave you in that treaty. They give you that quarter section under the treaty, but then if you make improvements on that land outside of your area, it can come up under the nation. Or if you die and don't have a family, nobody to inherit it, it can come back up under the nation. Or when you
just see how this is a scam, though. You know what's gonna happen as soon as the hair is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about two nations come together. There should be multiple bodies of family members to claim. Where did they go? Again, so seeing how they just kind of critiqued it, but yeah, this is a way to go ahead and get rid of them, and then we just get this land. I like how you had pointed out on that part, Chief Alligator, about the intermarriage, having whatever the scenario may be, but this is the plan that we're going to get that land some way, somehow, but we did it legally.
Right.
Yeah.
So no foul play.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to pick up?
We're going to Article 30?
Yeah.
I got it. So the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations will receive into their respective districts east of the 98 degrees of west longitude and the preparation and the corporation of the 1/4 in the Chickasaw and the 3/4 in the Choctaw nations, civilized Indians from the tribes known by the general name of the Kansas Indians. Start right there. Now we're seeing a specific nation, the Kansas Indians, and I just thought that was kind of, that's a rare thing we've seen while we've been reading. Someone other than the broad nations we already understand, Choctaw, Chickasaw. Now we're seeing a tribe, the Kansas Indians, being Indians to the north of the Indian Territory. Okay, so they know who's north of them. I lost where we're at. Civilized Indians from the tribes known by the general name of the Kansas Indians, being Indians to the north of the Indian Territory, not exceeding 10,000 in number, who shall have in the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations, respectively, the same rights as the Choctaw and Chickasaws. So from that part, it's kind of like they just pulled the Kansas Indians into their up under their nation, or up under this umbrella called the USA.
Correct.
Well, not the USA, with 3/4 into the Choctaw Nation. So the majority of them people are going to go into the Choctaw.
Right.
Now we know Kansas is an American name, but remember, they already got African slaves, Negroes, and then the Americans and European peasants that rebelled. Now they're bringing in another tribe of Americans, the Kansas, and they're specifically going to put 3/4 of them in the Choctaw Nation. So why they're trying to dilute that Choctaw Nation, we really don't know right now. Why are they kind of focusing on bringing those Kansas into the Choctaw?
Yeah.
Right. Where did this, how did that even come about? That's a great question to keep in mind. Same race as the Choctaw and Chickasaw, in whom they shall be the fellow citizens, governed by the same laws and enjoying the same privileges, with the acceptation of the right to participate in the Choctaw nations. Choctaw immunities and other monies, and in public domain should be the same, and other monies and in the public domain shall be the same, or the proceeds thereof, by divided per capita among the Choctaw and Chickasaw. Anybody want to kind of build on that one right there, on that piece?
Right. So what they're doing is they're bringing these Kansas in to these two nations, and they're saying that they should be the fellow citizens governed by the same laws and enjoying the same privileges. But then here's the catch: with the exception of the right to participate in the Choctaw and Chickasaw annuities and other monies. You don't get a chance to play with the money. So yeah, we'll let you participate, but we're not going to talk no business with you Kansas Americans within our group. So you're not a Choctaw or a Chickasaw.
Right. And not only that, now you're seeing the classism. Now you're seeing the classism being implemented into the American. So now you have like, yeah, but you're a Kansas,
Right. You can start right. So now nobody wants to reproduce with you because you're Kansas, because they know if I get with you, you don't get any money. You don't get any monetary benefits being a part of us. What else does it say? And in the public domain should be the same, or the proceeds thereof be divided per capita among the Choctaw and Chickasaws. So whatever it is you generate as a Kansas coming into that nation, another group of people are going to divide that up.
Right.
You can see, going back to the management class, how from a military standpoint, they're going to take a group of people from the 98th West Longitude Point, right, who happen to be Kansas Americans, and then they're going to say, okay, 1/4 going to Choctaw, 3/4 going to the Chickasaw, but we're going to
3/4,
which is a lot, right? The large portion, when we put these people in, we're going to cut them completely out of any kind of business within that nation. So it's safe to say these Kansas Americans, they're going to pretty much become extinct because they've blended them into the Choctaw and Chickasaw, but they're going to reap no benefits of anything that's being built.
It'll be the lower class of the Americans within that smaller umbrella. It's crazy.
All right, we can finish it off a little bit. After the expiration of the 90 days during which the selections of the land are to be made, as aforesaid by said Choctaw and Chickasaw, and the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations pledge themselves to treat the said Kansas Indians in all respect with kindness, forbearance, aiding them in good faith to establish themselves in the new home and to respect all their customs and usage, not inconsistent with the Constitution and law of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations, respectively.
Yes,
Um,
that's game.
Yeah,
All that is game.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
go
true.
ahead, Chief Blackcoat, if you wanted to build on that first.
no, go ahead. I think you said it. Like I was just put that
It's
out
all
my like.
game. If they can't benefit monetarily, then what they're saying is the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations pledged themselves to treat the said Kansas Americans in all respects with kindness and forbearance. So yeah, I'm gonna smile in your face. I'm gonna act like everything all good. I'm gonna aid you in good faith to establish themselves in your new homes, right? I'm gonna, hey, here's your nice house. Meanwhile, they already know you ain't reaping none of the monetary benefits from it.
They ain't getting the damn dime. Yeah.
Kind of how we heard the language of in the Constitution, working for reasonable wages. Sounds like that's the group to work reasonable wages.
Yeah.
Smile on your face, but it's still today. You can participate in the vote, but what do you ever get?
Nothing.
So now you kind of seeing them kind of do it to the Kansas Indians. It'd be nice, go to the hospitals, grocery stores, wherever you get your food, but you're just here.
Yeah, that's a great point too, that Chief Blackcoat. It's kind of like the Kansas Americans are paralleling our people today. Yeah, you got the right to, like you said, work for reasonable wages, but you ain't getting no resources. I only think they let them, let me see, shall be fellow citizens governed by the same laws and enjoy the same privileges. So like you said, yeah, y'all can even vote in our shit, but nothing will be allotted for you guys. So you're really just going to be extinct just off of that, because nobody wants to intermarriage with you all, because now you're just muddying or watering down the bloodline because you have nothing coming for you. You have no inheritance. So yeah, you can definitely see the game being played with them. And that'll be a group of people I think we need to definitely chop it up with if our Kansas brothers are still, existing out there, because yeah, it's looking like they're getting the very, very short end of the stick, if anything.
Just throwing in one more thing, what we know now in 2020 about Kansas, you notice that the European will always put symbology in your face, knowing that you're ignorant to American history. Kansas City Royals baseball team, okay? These people could have been royalty, or your Kansas City Chiefs. And you notice that same war cry that goes all the way back down to the Seminole Nation.
Yeah,
they got that same war cry. So it's pretty safe to say this was a very special group of people. And we're watching in this treaty how they're just going to decimate them and just basically blend them into nothing.
Yeah.
Just blend them in, kind of like what we are. Exactly what we are after the 1960 Civil Rights Act, where they took this group that was called Negro and just blended us in with minorities. And they said minorities were going to be European women, gays, handicaps, and all immigrants coming over with immigration papers. So you can see they did the same thing with the Kansas American that they've done with us, blend us in and never talk about money specifically with us, which, ultimately that's just the ultimate form of disrespect. And that's why this group of people is projected to have zero wealth in 30 years, because we don't have to keep beating this dead horse. But you've seen since Biden's been in office, every group of people has gotten resources. So anytime a government is not giving you any kind of financial resources and won't talk any kind of financial negotiations with you, that's the ultimate disrespect. So why are you supporting it? That goes back to the steps and goes back to a boycott. It makes no, why are you supporting something that's not willing to come to the table and negotiate with you? And I'll stop right there.
I think we should stop it right there too. Just let that marinate going into the next week. Did we finish off? Nope, we still got a little bit more in chapter Article 30. But that was what Chief Allocator just said. Yeah, man. What are we doing? But we have to have this type of knowledge in order to even kind of see this, whatever the millions of names it's called. So, just pulling back that back curtain. So what's going on here? Oh snap! They brought another nation up under another nation. Nope, that nation didn't get any benefits, but whoa. All right, so I'm gonna continue.
Let's see if we can knock it out.
Making selection. Somebody says
Yeah, I'll see if we can knock it out.
Yeah. In the making selections after the evident of the Indians and the actual occupancy of the land in said nation, such occupancy shall have the same effect in their behalf as the occupancies of the Choctaw and Chickasaw, and after the said Choctaw and Chickasaws have made their selections, as aforesaid, the said persons of African descent mentioned in the 3rd article of the treaty shall make their selections as therein provided. So now we're seeing they're bringing back another group of people, the African descent, mentioned in the 3rd article of the treaty, shall make their selections as therein provided. In the event of the making of the laws, rules, and regulations, aforesaid after the expiration of 90 days from the date of which the Kansas Indians are to make their selections.
Yeah, wait a minute. You're reading a little bit too much. So if you go back up, Chief Biko, where he said, where it says, and after the said Choctaws and Chickasaws have made their selections as aforesaid. So Choctaws and Chickasaws get first dibs on land. Then it says the said persons of African descent mentioned in the 3rd article of the treaty shall make their selections as therein provided. So the African descent people get sloppy seconds. Remember, they also mentioned Negroes, right? But the African descent people come behind the Choctaw Chickasaw people. Then it says, shall make their selections as therein provided in the event of the making of the laws, rules, and regulations aforesaid, after the expiration of 90 days from the date at which the Kansas Indians are to make their selections as therein provided. So now we see the pecking order: Choctaw, Chickasaw, African descent, then the Kansas Indians. So yeah, you're getting 3rd and 4th. I just wanted to mention that so we don't get caught up in
you
that.
broke it down correct. And again, it's kind of you're seeing them putting that African descent above another tribe that was already on this land, understood. But we're going to continue reading. So Kansas Indians are to make their selections as therein provided in the actual occupancy of such persons of African descent shall have the same effect in their behalf as the occupancies of the Choctaw and Chickasaws. So just in that last little piece, sounds like now the Kansas Indians selection is therein provided to the actual occupancies of such persons of African descent shall have the same effect in their behalf. Sounds like they kind of leveling out their rights. The Kansas Indians and the African descents are kind of now like neck to neck up under the Chickasaw and Choctaw nation.
Right, but neither one of those groups can deal with the money. We know the Kansas, the Kansas people, they can't get involved with the money with the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and then the African descent. Earlier read in the treaty, they got a one-time payment of like $100 or something, so they can't even be involved with the money. The only group they haven't mentioned, and they're probably going to get into it next week when we read, is the European peasant and the Negro.
Correct.
Remember, they separated those groups. They specifically said African slaves and Negro.
Yeah. Wow. It's just definitely eye-opening. They're definitely implementing their own classism. When I say they are, just basically United States is making sure that they have a certain classism in these respective nations. But yeah, like you said, Choctaw, Chickasaws, then African descent, then Kansas Americans, and then we'll see the progression from there. But yeah, even here it says African descent shall have the same effect in their behalf as the occupancies of this. Because it's basically saying here, actual occupancy of the land, such occupancy shall have the same effect in their behalf as the occupancies of Choctaws and Chickasaws. So.
Right. So if you want to bait and switch it, you can point somebody to that article, but then if they didn't read the 2 articles prior, you wouldn't know that the Kansas people won't receive any money. You know what I'm saying? So you can see the bait and switch. I think for me, in closing, is right on our face what we read today, that if you don't educate yourself and stay on top of game on the individual level and then let it bleed over into the group level, people will try you and people will try to take advantage of you financially. What we're seeing here is the Kansas people are going to be taken advantage of by entering into these 2 nations. We see the African descendant people are already going to be taken advantage of earlier in the treaty. And so it just goes to show that always mind your business and don't play dumb. We've been playing dumb for over 150 years, and then we wonder why we don't get anything. And we let these people get in front of us on TV and get us distracted with all, it don't even matter the trickery that's trying to be used. When you know what time it is, you can just sit back and you can just look at it and just call it bullshit for what it is, right? You can call it black girl magic, Hillary Clinton with the hot sauce, giving you Obama trying to claim that he you. All of that's just an illusion to not talk money with this group of people. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm taking from this is don't let people play on your intelligence. Treat them accordingly.
I just want to go back to what Chief Beagle had brought up about the Black Caucus. You can see why they can just throw anybody in there now, because anybody can claim to be you. Asian American, all these different types of people in the Black Caucus, and it's like, wait, where are all the Negroes? But they look like us, but they're not us once you understand who they are. And we just pull anybody for this group. We'll just infiltrate them with that and that. Keep it pushing.
Yeah, like you said, that's a great point though. It's like, where are the, like you said, are the Americans? You have a bunch of Nigerians and all kind of different African countries being represented within the Black Caucus. But it's like, okay, where are the actual Americans within this caucus that's supposed to be?
I know some niggas on the internet, and they would love to be in the Black Caucus. And I'm talking about mature guys.
Yeah.
Why don't we have those powerful voices? Why is it always like how Chief Alligator said, Chuck Taylors and Pearls? And we don't care about that.
Yeah.
What's up?
That's